Plenty of international stars around in this Indian Premier League, but ever so often a local star is born. Today it was a day of two Kuldeeps. One was the Kuldeep we are familiar with in the afternoon game, and in the evening it was another Kuldeep who we had never seen before. Young Kuldeep Sen from Madhya Pradesh was handed the last over, and he was up against one of the great strikers in world cricket in Marcus Stoinis. It would have been advantage Stoinis with the number of runs, but Kuldeep Sen bowled an outstanding over. And the fact that Rajasthan won by 3 runs, perhaps the scoreline is a little bit flattering. It was very much in control of the bowler through most of that final over. What a finish we've had at the end of a long Sunday. 3 runs, the margin for Rajasthan, and they continue to march on at the very top of the table. Catch our breaths and look back at the game that's just finished here on Cricbuzz Live. I'm joined by Michael Vaughan, Lisa Sthalekar. What a finish. It was breathtaking. It was one of those that could have potentially have gone to a super over, Michael, but ever so often these kids come out of nowhere, the temperament more than anything else.
Yeah, skill levels, temperament, fantastic from Kuldeep Sen. Rajasthan, I think, have sent a message that they are a real side this year with the way that they've got out of that tricky position with the bat. They've held the nerve with the ball. I think you can question the tactics of keeping Stoinis so late in the order. I think he's better than that. I don't think he's just a finisher. I think he can get big scores higher up the order. And, you know, sometimes in this era of T20 cricket, you can almost have too much information and overthink the game where, you know, there's 120 balls, you're chasing down a target. You just need your better players facing as many of those balls as possible. So another good game of cricket. Spin, you know, all day we've seen real quality spin. Narain, Kuldeep Yadav, Ashwin, 4 overs, 0 for 20, no wickets, but unbelievable economy. And then 4 wickets for Yuvchendra Chahal. So it's been a day where we've seen some high-class spin. But that opening burst from Trent Boult, that was right up there. A bit of hoopage round the wicket to surprise KL Rahul. Yeah, it's quality from Rajasthan today.
Yeah, but we've almost forgotten, because of everything that happened towards the end, because of Bolt's spell, Lisa, we seem to have forgotten that Rajasthan were in tatters when they were batting. They didn't look as if they were going to get any kind of a total. And when they did get to a total, we still felt it was below par.
Yeah, it was, I guess, the main thing to keep in mind is that Rajasthan had to fight really hard to get to that total, and some wonderful hitting by Shimron Hetmeyer, the strategic retired out by Rajasthan as well, which will spark, no doubt, social media. But then what they were able to do from that hitting at the back end, they took it straight away into the power play. And we know these white balls, they don't swing very long, but if you can get it right, and Trent Boult is one of the best in the world, he got it perfectly right. It swung late. You take 2 poles out, but not only Marcus Stoinis, his batting order, we spoke about this in the combox at the 10-over mark, just the decision to bring up Cricbuzz Gautam, Jason Holder. I mean, you had a decent order that had been successful for Lucknow, but they decided to change it. And we were talking about the fact that they lost the 2 wickets in that first over. So it must have been a plan to send both Gautam and Holder up early, which, you know, still makes me scratch my head a little bit. But then, yeah, I'll be interested to see what KL Rahul actually says in his post-match presentation.
Well, we're going to pop on the Cricbuzz app and let you know exactly what happens there. But, Michael, in the meantime, yeah, Marcus Stoinis was one of them. Cricbuzz Gautam was one of them. But obviously, they are a little reliant on a start from KL Rahul and Quinton de Kock. And in a long tournament, you need to start finding out who's your middle order and who's your lower middle order.
Yeah, you do. Obviously, the start wasn't what they wanted. I'll keep saying, I think sometimes you can overcomplicate the game. You know, and tonight I thought they just overcomplicated with tinkering with the batting lineup. I don't think you need to do that in T20 cricket. Yes, you need certain styles of players at certain times in the innings, but to almost like throwing out anybody at any stage and then leaving Stoinis was clearly a plan to keep Stoinis to the last 4 overs. It's one that I think we won't be seeing that again in this tournament. I think that I've learned from the mistake that they made this evening, that tinkering, you can kind of tinker if you're on a roll of winning 5 or 6 games on the trot, and you might be looking for a certain combination. But I didn't think tonight was the night for tinkering with that batting lineup.
Well, that's pretty much what KL Rahul has said. He started, of course, by talking about the delivery that got him out. He said he didn't even see it and paid compliment to Trent Bolt. But he said it was always the plan to hold Stoinis back. We know how dangerous he can be in the last 5 overs. Now, this is probably an example of overthinking it. I mean, why would he have to be dangerous in the last 5 and not earlier on?
Yeah, I don't know. I see him, and I know this competition and the pitches and everything else is a little bit different here in Australia, but he opens the batting for the Melbourne Stars and does really well. I can see that there may be some flexibility required, because you look at different teams, different compositions, and you want to try and make sure that you even out all your power hitters and your workers and your timers and your accumulators. But I just think they gave him too much to do. I know he's a wonderful hitter, but you shouldn't expect that from him all the time. So just give him another 5 to 10 balls, and I think he'll get you across the line.
Yeah, and he's not someone like a Shardul Thakur, who essentially is your bowling all-rounder. He can be a floater, pad him up, go on there, get us a few boundaries. He's essentially at the moment, Michael, playing as a specialist batsman, because we know with the injuries he's had, we're not expecting him to bowl too much.
Yeah, and the tactics that they're using is a specialist batter that comes in from the 15th over down, depending on whether they're 4 wickets down, 6 wickets down, 1 wicket down. He'll come in from the 15th over. I just think he's better than that. As Lisa said, I've seen him play for the Stars for many, many years at the top of the order. He's got the game to give himself a chance, and then we know that he can explode into that power hitting zone of pretty much hitting sixes at will. Why wouldn't you want a player like that who I've seen get hundreds in T20 cricket? Why wouldn't you want him to maximise that to get hundreds in the IPL? It's something I think they'll reconsider. I know Andy Flower very well, and he's always up for change. He's always up for tinkering, but he's always very good when he kind of senses that it didn't quite go to plan. He might argue that actually Stoinis worked and the rest didn't. He might come back with that argument, but I would say, come on, give him a few more balls. He's got the ability to get your 80s, 100s quite consistently on good pitches.
I think we've just got an insight into the conversation that he's going to have with Flower. The messages going back and forth.
Yeah, I'm sure Gautam Gambhir, Andy Flower, they're all going to have a little chat out there. They've got lots of people in that dugout. And I'm sure Stoinis himself is the kind of guy who'd say that, listen, I'd have liked a few more balls. But what's gone is gone. KL Rahul finished that little chat by saying, one bad game will not make us a bad team. We need to take the learnings out of this. And I think this will be a very, very important learning. They're at least not at the wrong end of the table, Lisa. Unlike a couple of teams, unfortunately, we spoke about 2 champion teams who are languishing without a point.
Yeah, they've started this campaign, their first campaign, really well. Both new teams have come out of the blocks quickly and hard, and they've played some really good cricket. There seems to be a good feel amongst the 2 teams, the 2 new teams. So, yeah, they can afford to do that, but you don't want to put yourself in that situation too many times, because then all of a sudden you start to just lose games and they just bank up on you pretty quickly.
Well, that's what does happen. We've heard from KL Rahul. A quick word from Trent Bolt. He said it was a late call at breakfast. It was Jimmy Neesham's idea to go with that plan against KL Rahul. They were obviously asking him about the ball that he bowled and bowling it from where he did. My role with the new ball is to take in as many wickets as possible. Pretty simple game for me at the top and get it to swim. The humidity and the overheads assisted it. Limited English from Kuldeep. He runs in hard enough. He executed it well in the end, and he's only going to get better. So obviously they've he's new to the system, and he'll start learning with this group very quickly that whether or not he speaks the language, I think the ball will do the talking, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you see high class bowling, T20 cricket, we always kind of celebrate the ball flying to all parts, and it's a great spectacle. But we have really seen some quality with the ball in hand today on two pitches that hasn't been easy for the bowlers because there hasn't been a great deal there for them. So when you do see real quality, and that's what I really like about the IPL, is that the quality always shines through. And if you're anything of that mediocre kind of run-of-the-mill player, you get found out, you get exposed. That's why it's a real high-level tournament.
And you could see, Lisa, I mean, they kind of plugged a gap. We talked about it in the preview. Navdeep Saini, he's been around the block, but he went for a few runs. That's the one they had to change. They changed it, and spot on. You can see they've unearthed another young kid.
Yeah, they've unearthed him, but now that everyone's got footage of him, haven't they? They know what he does. They know what he goes to in pressure situations. If he's going to bowl the last over in death overs, where his preferred line length and field. So for him, it will be about being able to now keep adapting. I mean, he's got some great people around him, hasn't he, just to learn the skill. You saw Trent Bolt run over and talk about what he should do at the death. So he will just get better and better. He'll learn, but there'll be some games that he'll be found out, and hopefully he's got the right support staff and the support on the field that it's going to happen every now and again. A player may get a hold of you.
Also, just for the record, first time in 5 games the team has successfully defended at the Wankhede this season. Very different story at the Brabourne Stadium, but Wankhede should be a chasing ground. But this was a topsy-turvy game. So much really happened in there. But let's not forget, there were actually 2 games that happened today. We got to review the first game just a little bit, but I think it's worth going back to that to see how Kolkata were really undone by Delhi. Purely a matter of putting runs on the board, many runs on the board, and knowing that the spinners could do the job, something Michael mentioned at the very start in the afternoon. 215 for 5. David Warner, Prithvi Shaw gave them the lightning start. Little stuck in the middle they got. They were looking like they were not going to get the 200. And then came 2 cameos from Shardul Thakur and Aksar Patel. And then it was over to Kuldeep number 1. We had a Kuldeep Sen at the end. And Kuldeep Yadav 4 for 35 in 4 overs. And Kolkata were found wanting. Michael, we talked about one Kuldeep, but what about the other one? We can talk about all the confidence. We can talk about everything. Today, he was pumped, and it just looked like he's going from strength to strength. Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been given this new lease of confidence, first and foremost by Rohit Sharma, now by Ricky Ponting. Sometimes a move for players works. It works for their own kind of careers. It works for their own mindset. They get a little bit more loving somewhere else, and that seems to be the case with Kuldeep Yadav. I mean, whatever they're doing with him, I don't think he's gone away from what he's done before, which is deliver high-quality leg spin. He's got great variations. I love a leg spin that just gives it a little bit of flight, just tempts the batters, and we saw the dismissal today of Suresh when he danced down and just did him through the air. It was a beautiful piece of bowling. So I think it's a great story that we're seeing with Kuldeep Yadav. He's very popular. He's still got many, many, many more years playing the game. And I would think that we'll see him having many more afternoons out like we saw today. I think we'll see him having a lot more success in Indian colours as well. It looks like he's got that joy of the game again.
And that list we saw, Lisa, it's probably not a coincidence. You've got 3 wrist spinners in there and a couple of quality Indian fast bowlers.
Yeah, we know spin to win, and especially wrist spinners. But also, it probably highlights the fact that the last few nights we haven't seen much dew around. So the spinners are being effective, and whether that continues, and as the pitches get older, spin is going to play a really important role. So, but also good to see Umesh Yadav as well there. He always just keeps putting his hand up, doesn't he? That he's like, I'm still around. I'm still bowling well. I can still take wickets in the power play.
And we've got both ends of the spectrum there, Michael. The three wrist spinners, and you've got a veteran in Umesh Yadav who's been around the block. And then, of course, you've got the new man, Avesh Khan, who showed he can bat a bit today as well with that huge six. But really, it sort of completes the entire spectrum of Indian bowlers, doesn't it?
Yeah, you've got a left arm leggy, you've got a right arm leggy, you've got quality pacers. Early stages, I think there'll be a few other bowlers that will be pushing towards the top of that list. I just wonder whether KKR will be honest about their decision of the toss as well.
Mm.
I think it was one that they went on the 3 victories chasing. They didn't actually look down and look at the conditions that they were playing at in the afternoon, where it just looked perfect to bat first, get a score, and then use your spinners in the second innings. It was one that I would think, looking back now, they'll say they should have batted first.
But also, Lisa, I mean, that, of course, is an afternoon game, which I think, as Michael said, is a no-brainer. But if either the spray or just the overhead conditions are making sure that there's not too much dew, it's not even a bad idea on a good batting surface to do the same in a night game.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems like it's a fear, isn't it? To be the first captain to win the toss and say, hey, let's have a bat. It's almost like in Test cricket now as well, win the toss and bowl. You just rarely do it unless the conditions are everything going your way and everyone's talking about doing that. So there's probably going to have to be a certain push from the media, social media as well, to say, hey, guys, you can bat first. It's all right. And we're seeing that some teams are actually posting enough runs and being able to defend it, even in the night games as well.
But just to finish off on that earlier game, sometimes we can get a little carried away by trying to find what went wrong for the losing side. Pat on the back to Rajasthan. They held their nerve. They found Shimron Hetmeyer as not just a finisher, but someone who can play long innings. But in that first game, David Warner looked completely out of sorts in game number 1. Today, along with Prithvi Shaw, we saw what the real David Warner was all about.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you get with David Warner is that don't underestimate what he does to his partner at the other end. I think what David Warner he's produced wonderful individual performances, but he always seems to be a part of a combination. He always seems to be able to get his partner going, whether it's Prithvi Shaw, whether it was Johnny Bairstow, whoever he's partnered for Australia over the years. He always seems to get a bit of energy and buzz going. So I think he's a really good batter to bat with. I think he brings a bit of life to you as a partner of his. He's probably very positive the way that he speaks. He's probably very, activates pretty much all the balls. He's always running between the wickets hard, which gets you going as a player as well. So he's a good signing for Delhi. I think Ricky Ponting will know exactly how to get David Warner going.
Yeah, Fields in the hot spots. Today we saw him getting involved in a couple of DRS decisions, which, it looked like it was very easy for the bowler and the keeper to go up. And David Warner was gesticulating wildly from backward point that too high, too high, too high, which is not a bad angle to actually see it was. And it was too high.
Yeah, well, that's the Australian way at the moment, isn't it? With the DRS, you can see it in the Test arena. It's the keeper, it's point or maybe a square leg, and then the bowler. It's those three that are making those decisions. So, he jumped in. He's a leader. He's a leader of sides. Did it obviously with Hyderabad for such a long period of time, and it's very hard when you've been in that role before not to pass your judgment or not judgment, your opinion. And it's up to the current skipper to then kind of sift through it and go, hey, I like that bit. I don't like that bit. I'm taking that information. So, Delhi are in a good place, I think, because Rishabh Pant, there's still, a little bit of question marks about his leadership as well. And he's got a big job on his hands.
Yeah, I think we'd probably see that with a lot of teams with the newer captains, if they can have that second captain lurking around. And certainly Rishabh Pant will be using a lot of David Warner with the season going ahead. But that's as far as these two matches are concerned. But what importantly does that do to the points table? There has been a little bit of movement. We saw both the clashes today were relatively on the higher side, and it means we've got a log jam at 6 points. Lucknow stay on 6. They could have jumped up even higher. Rajasthan, now with their net run rate, go right to the top. followed by Kolkata, Gujarat, Bangalore, and Lucknow. That's quite a crowd up there. Only 4 teams, remember, out of 10 will make it to the playoffs. So if you've already got a competition with 5, think of how Mumbai and Chennai are feeling at the moment. Delhi, Punjab, and Hyderabad just outside that 6 hitting zone. And it also means that 2 of these teams are going to be taking each other on Manic Monday. We've had a long weekend gone. What is the game they're looking forward to on Monday? It's the winning new franchise, the Gujarat Titans, taking on a team desperate for 2 more points. They've somehow got the 2 against Chennai the other day, and now they'll want to add 2 more. And if they do, it'll really close things up among the top 8 teams. Lisa, let me come to you first, and let's talk about the new franchise. We were not really sure. It looks good in an auction. It looks good on paper.
Yeah.
But they seem to have gelled together for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't lost a game yet, have they? And I guess there was question marks as well about Hardik Pandya captaining. And what I've seen so far early on, and even the last game as well, was when his side was under the pump, when Nalkande was making his debut and, got hit for some runs, he was going up and patting him on the back. So I think that was really important. You would think that he's an emotional skipper, Hardik Pandya, but he's not. He seems really cool, calm. He still smiles. He probably gets a little bit annoyed, but he's very supportive. I think that's a really good trait. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds as we get to the pointy end of the tournament, whether that type of leadership or that type of captaining will continue for him. But there's a lot to like about the Gujarat side.
We didn't have you on the show, Michael, early on when a lot of the talk is about the message Hardik Pandya is sending out firstly to Team India, but also what does that do to his own role in the franchise? Because he's leading from the front. He likes to bat up the order. He's opening the bowling, taking wickets. You can't ask for more from a captain, can you?
No, I think it's a smart move. To give him the leadership role, I think if you look at what he's got in terms of his memory and his kind of cricketing bank of knowledge, he knows how to win this tournament. He knows how to run and be around a successful franchise. Probably the most cohesive, successful franchise is you would say, Chennai and the Mumbai Indians side. So he's been around the Mumbai Indians side. So to then take him into a new franchise, I'm sure he's taken a lot of what he feels is outstanding at Mumbai and he's brought it to the new side. And ultimately, they've picked a really good team. Shubman Gill is a young player of high class with a lot to prove, and we've seen that already. It's high quality. But that bowling attack of Shami, Ferguson and Rashid Khan, if they stay fit, that is a high-class bowling attack.
Yeah, they've got a lot of bases covered. There are a couple of little gaps in there, and both the gaps seem to have been covered by almost seasoned campaigners. Sai Sudarshan, we saw him play the other day. Darshan Nalkande, he's been around but not been heard of enough, and a finisher like Rahul Tewatia. So everyone seems to be fitting into the right kind of roles. I mean, you'd much rather have Hardik Pandya bat up than us talking about him not having come into bat at all.
It's a bit like a Stoinis, where was he? He's batting in the right position, I think, and he's been able to kind of get those little bursts of energy out there and being able to strike it cleanly. I reckon he's only, one hit away from a big total, and he seems like he wants it, doesn't he? Because you're right. It's like under 10s cricket. He's opening the bowling. He bats where he wants. He's moving all the chess pieces. It's great. It's great to see.
Yeah, we don't really anticipate too many changes in that lineup unless they look at those two as rotating spots and try over the course of the first 6 games to see who fits in best. But with that crux of the bowling attack that Michael just mentioned, Shubman Gill in form, Hardik Pandya striking up there, and Matthew Wade, well, not set the place on fire, but he's pretty solid up there. Let's look at the side with a few problems, Michael. That's the men in orange. Again, they've got some big names in there. They've got a victory under their belt, but when they come up against a well-oiled unit like the Gujarat Titans, they'll probably need to get a little bit more out of some players. So far, Rahul Tripathi and Abhishek Sharma are the ones who have stood out as the young Indians.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Abhishek Sharma in the last game. Kane Williamson, you know what you're getting with Kane. He'll be consistent. Nicholas Pooran, flamboyant, aggressive. He's one of those players on his day can win any game of cricket. I don't see. I mean, their bowling attack worked well in the last game. I just don't see that they've got enough real quality spin. And when the wickets start to wear, I think that's probably where they're going to really struggle. They're going to miss Rashid Khan. Obviously, that's a huge hole to fill. I don't see them being anywhere near this year. I hope they prove me wrong, but I just don't think they've got enough in comparison to some of the other sides. And it'll take, that batting lineup to be so consistent. And then somehow the captain's got to find a way of working combinations with that bowling department. Washington Sundar is a massive key to them, particularly with the new ball. You know how potent he can be bowling his off spinners in the initial 6 overs. But I just don't think they've got enough real quality spin to be a threat in this year's IPL.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
The only one I think that they could potentially bring in is like the Shreyas Gopal. He would be the one that they probably need to try, and then maybe as the pitches start to get a bit lower, slower and spin friendly, he may have a role to play. But you're right. I mean, how do you replace a Rashid Khan? They haven't even come close in that sense. It's almost like they were just hoping for fast, bouncy tracks and given their pace attack. But you need to cover all bases.
But just a final word on Umran Malik. I mean, he looks so good. He takes your breath away. 150 plus kilometers an hour, but he's going off the bat as fast as he bowls. So he's probably hasn't developed that slower ball yet, Michael. Is that something of a concern for them? Because remember, is a retention.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you want to keep him bowling at 150 kilometers an hour. That's a great skill to have. And over the games that he plays and the more experience that he gets, and being in and around all the high class coaching and the experienced players, he'll learn the art of a different variation. Back of the hand, slow as cutters. To survive at this level, you can't just be a one-trick pony. You can't just bowl 150 kilometers an hour. As much as it's a great skill, it's a great potent weapon, you still need something different to really ask these batters of this era. They don't like facing 150 kilometers an hour. Who does? But they'll deflect it and they'll maneuver it. You've got to have one or two more tricks up your sleeve.
And that's exactly what the batters have done to Umran Malik. They've left a few outside the off stump when they've got the chance, and sometimes you just hit through the line of the ball. Before you know it, it's on the boundary. The fielder can't stop it. So they'll probably have to get that. Lisa, I'd love to be in a room to listen to Dale Steyn having a little session with Umran Malik.
Yeah, I mean, he's got one of the best, hasn't he, in his change room to kind of chew his ear off. The conversations will be plenty, but it's up to Umran Malik to kind of take what is told to him, filter it, and then decide what he is willing to do. Because at the end of the day, it's his career, not Dale Steyn. He's already had his career as a bowler. So that's one thing that you have to be able to do as a current player, because you will get so much information coming from all sorts of things. And especially if you want to actually go on social media and read the reports after every game as well.
Well, the other person who a lot is expected from is Nicholas Pooran. He and Shimron Hetmyer are very good buddies. They've just been separated as far as the CPL is concerned. But something tells me after watching Hetty play tonight, Nicholas Pooran will have a point to prove, because they like to have goes at each other. So look out, Hyderabad, if they can get something out of Pooran against the Gujarat Titans. That's all that we're looking forward to on Monday. But if we rewind to Sunday afternoon, we had asked you a question, or certainly Joy had thrown the question through us to all of you. That was our Joy Factor question for the day, and let's try and find out what it was. Yep, Sai Sudarshan was going to be playing on Manic Monday for the Gujarat Titans. What connects him with PV Sindhu? And I was going to be cheeky and say they both took toilet breaks in the middle of a major game, which is what Sai Sudarshan did yesterday. But no, that's not the answer. Both their mothers played national level volleyball. PV Sindhu's father, we know, was also an Arjuna awardee in volleyball. So there's the question. Volleyball, and I suspect anyone who knew Joy reasonably well would have got the volleyball connection, because he, of course, does so well with his volleyball league. So, Joy, well done getting the volleyball in. And who is the one who spotted that first? Our winner today is Sarangarajan. Well done, sir. You are now making a habit of coming here. We meet again. That's another one that he's thrown us. He's got some difficult ones. I suspect he knows Joy well by now as well. One more little bit of information, Lisa, and I need your help on this one. Joy is also working hard putting together the retro reels, and it takes us back in time, different sports. It could be cricket, it could be something else. We had the Beatles on the last time around. All of it on Cricbuzz Plus. Subscribe there, and you'll get content like that. This time, what he's got for us on retro reels is something right up your street, Lisa.
Yeah. You have to rewind to 2005 on this day, and the Indian women's side played their first 50-over World Cup final. It was in South Africa against us, Australia. So good to see that he's covering everything.
You were there, Lisa, memories, playing in the final?
Yep, there, and India had us under the pump, and then Karen Rolton managed to score 100 in that final, only surpassed recently by Lisa Healy as an Australian in a final. But she put on a masterclass. I think we scored over 220, 223, 230 maybe. Unfortunately, India didn't fire, and we were able to walk away with our 5th title.
Yeah, well, good memories in there. Thank you, Joy, for putting together on retro reels. When the last time we heard of a final in South Africa and an Australian gets big runs, not just among the men, the women, the men have done it as well in 2003. Oh dear, it's not always happy memories, but we love to go back in time. So retro reels, Cricbuzz Plus, look out for that. But we've had a long day, and always delighted to be joined from different parts of the world. What time is it, Lisa, for you?
4:40 a.m. That's earlier than what I thought it would be. So I'm cheering.
All right, very good. So Lisa, getting to get set for some breakfast. So good morning to you, Michael. It's been a long day of cricket. We've had a bit of football. There's some golf to watch right now. So go and enjoy that. It's still early evening for you. Thank you for joining us. And of course, to all of you, thank you again for joining us on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you soon. On behalf of Lisa, Michael, and myself, it's good night.